Monsieur Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bësal mu fay.
What?
Bësal mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave acts in Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills, and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bësal mu fine. Wave, your money is yours.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
It's coffee time with Peter Gomez on Tuesday, the 8th of April, 2025. My next guest for the next half hour is Sheriff Janha of NuPaC. Sheriff, welcome to West Coast Radio.
Thank you very much, Uncle Peter.
Tell me about NuPaC.
Yes, it's nurturing patriotic citizens.
Young citizens or old citizens?
All citizens. But remember, we are just focusing on the young ones.
On the young ones. Okay.
Generation.
Tell me about, is it an association? Is it soon to become a political party? Is it a movement?
For now, it is a movement. We looking at the problem of this country, because we believe that if we do not understand the genesis and the root causes of our problems, then we will hardly develop the right mindset to find the solutions required to solve these problems. And if we understand also that if these problems we have, we do not understand the genesis, the root cause of it, and the consequences are we will become inferior to those people who are solving their problems. And in essence, the difference between countries that are developed after independence and countries that do not or are still struggling is quite one thing. Countries that have achieved significant progress have taken their time to do their assignment, to find the root causes of their problem and go down there and solve it. And us who are still struggling, we're still not finding the time do our right assignment to see what is the root. It's not about looking at the effects. Usually we are treating the effect and not the root causes of the problem. And I think NuPaC is trying to raise the awareness to see that, okay, our problem is not about the effects they're talking about. It is the problem, the root causes of it. Now, what are the root causes of these problems we are facing? So our studies, because we're doing a lot of research.
You are?
Yeah, we are not just talking. That's right. For now, we are not reaching out. We are reaching out to the public. We're just doing our findings. We do our research. We go to communities and see what are the problems they're facing. But our research showed this, that we made a mistake after independence. And the mistake we made was...
Oh.
Yes.
So the mistake is not of recent?
Since independence.
Wow.
And the error was this, that we misconstrue a change of color for a change of content. That's what
Explain that to me.
Yes. The change of color and content, they are not the same. We will emerge from colonialism, and we must understand that the colonialism has strategic vision and objectives, and they also have a methodological mechanism or approaches to make sure their strategic vision and objectives are achieved. Now, the question is, what was the strategic vision of the colonial empire?
Okay. The white collar is associated, sorry, or rather, the color here
the color
is white colonialists.
No, the color is the methodology.
Okay.
The content is the vision.
Not the color of
Not the color of
the people who were governing at the time.
No, not the color of that. I mean color, I'm just using it as a way of saying the method.
As a metaphor.
Yes, the method. You can easily change the methods. But the purpose, the vision, the objective does not change. Now, what was the very vision of the colonial empire? That one is to control and harness economic and political power globally. And two was to ensure they build a civilization, or a global order in which they would be the kings and queens, and anybody else will be under them and be their servants, or we can call the slaves. So that's the colonial vision. And if you study it very well and you still look at what's going on right now, you still find out that order, that vision, that objective is still perpetuated. But what was the color? They changed. They changed from exploiting the resources of the people and oppressing the people to get what they want and change it. Now it's diplomacy and also development aid. These are the two instruments that they use. Now they change it. That's why I'm saying changing the color. Changing the color means now you are changing from exploiting and oppressing to diplomacy and development aid. All of them have a specific vision objective to achieve.
Which is?
Which is to get the Western world to be still the power controllers, the economic controllers, and of course the dictators of how nations should be. So that is the essence. So we must understand that the thing started from there. But what are the consequences of all these things? The consequences of all these things are this. They put the African countries, remember we constitute, or we have in our disposal 40% of all the global mineral resources. We have them in our disposal. But why is that these minerals are not really developing us?
Why?
What's wrong? Because they place us in a position. What are the positions they place us? They make sure that Africa, since then colonialism, is a place for raw material extraction. And two, is a market for the products of the manufacturing goods of the industrialized world. And the third is to ensure obsolete technologies that are old enough, and also the products that they don't need is going to be dumped here. So these are the three things they have done to us. So now, if that happens, what are the consequences of that? Then that will create, we call economic deficiencies, or economic deficits, if you like. It will create social deficits. It will create structural deficits. It will create political deficits. So these are the deficits that you will see happening, and then therefore you will bring a development program in the midst of all this deficit and see no results. Do you understand? But I'm particularly interested in the economic deficit and the social deficit, because if you have a social deficit, which is usually from the structural deficit, because you must have the structure. First, you build the structure, and usually our development programs usually fail. Simply is because, one, they don't fix the structural deficits. And if you don't fix the structural deficit, then therefore the social deficit cannot be fixed. And the economic deficit cannot be fixed. And of course, politics will be used as a means to tranquilize the pain.
Nice expression.
Do you understand? So now, what is this economic deficit all about? A food deficit. You have energy deficits. You have capital deficits. You have foreign exchange reserve deficits. Oh. And yes, you also have how do I put it again? These are the four deficits that I find out. Now, all these deficits will also create the effects you're seeing. The unemployment you will see, the inflation you will see, and also government cannot do anything but to ensure that they subsidize, to make sure the pain of inflation will not be will not be experienced by the people. They will instruct central bank to say, do something about the exchange rate. You know, when some central bank says, we're going to increase the interest rate, you know what that means?
No.
It means our reserve, our foreign reserves, is depleting.
Oh, really?
And we need to fix it.
I should have had this conversation before interviewing the governor.
How do you fix it? Because remember, you are an importing country. And you need a dollar, you need foreign exchange to import. Now, if you are using your foreign reserve to buy goods, what do you think will happen? The depletion of the foreign reserves.
But you sell goods and, replenish those reserves.
How do you replenish it? How? You are not exporting as much as you should export because you have a trade deficit. And if you have a trade deficit, meaning you are taking more of the dollars you have to buy than the ones you are having. And that will put pressure on the Gambian dollar and get it depreciated. And then you have the foreign currency going up. And the next morning you go and buy the same commodity, the price goes up.
Yeah, but that's why we need the grants that are coming from outside.
Good.
Because they come in foreign currency.
That's why we have the capital deficits comes now. That's why you'll have a budget deficit.
Oh.
Why are you having a budget deficit? Now, if you have a budget deficit, where do you resort to? Grants and aid. Or we call it just development aid. There are three, development aid consists three things. One, we have what we call technical assistance. It's part of it. You have grants and debt. And all are entrapment.
Ah.
You see, they're trapped. Let me just give you a brief history, okay? After independence, the first 10 years, the first decade, the economy of this country, according to the research, you say, was stable. Output, groundnut, and other crops was high, okay? The budget was always surplus. Inflation was low. Foreign reserves, was high. So unemployment was low. So meaning our economy was stable during the first 10 years. But the second 10 years, where government started to bring a development plan to ensure, one important thing was to ensure they increase or diversify their earning capacity. That's why you see them creating the Gambia Produce Marketing Board to make sure that monopolizing the trade of groundnut. But the minister, when he came here, was trying to give a reference to that, to say, to prove to us that the idea of privatization is in the best interest of the country. And I have a problem with that. Big problem. Because what kind of privatization are you talking about? You should always ask the question, what privatization are you talking about? Is it a privatization driven by a foreign corporation or a privatization driven by the national corporations? The privatization of West Coast is good for this country because it's owned, controlled, directed by a Gambian. So therefore, any proceed generated by this is planned back here.
So state assets should not be sold to non-Gambians?
I'm saying if it is to be sold, capable non-Gambians, it can be sold to capable Gambians, of course. But the ones that are non-Gambians, now the disadvantage you have to look at now. If you take your national assets, Uncle Peter, every country, a serious government, must always have to diversify its earnings to avoid depending on other countries for financial assistance. Because if you are depending on other countries for financial assistance, they dictate certain policies. Let me take an example. The IMF Structural Adjustment Program in the 80s, which was culminated by the Washington Consensus. And it is this structural program, is all entrapment. What they do is, now let's say, they give you in initial stage. I told you the Gambia economy was faring good the first 10 years, but in the second 10 years, there are so many shocks that took place. One, we had a drought, and that lowers the amount of produce or outputs we will produce. And the end of the first 1975 towards 1980, we experienced a shock in the international market. The groundnut price was down. So what does that mean? It means our output was low, and also the price was down. So it means the revenue we're going to get in export is going to be down. And what does that mean? It means the Gambia Produce Marketing Board will suffer in terms of revenue. So that happened. And also development plan 1975 to 1980 was also concocted then. So what does it mean? Government must go out to get more money to ensure the grand idea they wanted to implement must be financed. Do you understand? So where do they go to? IMF, World Bank, and all the development donors to get loans, grants, and all of these come with conditions. Now imagine now you're giving a lot of debt for a period of 5 years. You cannot pay. You are on the arrears. IMF will come back and tell you, boy, you are on arrears. You are not credit worthy right now because you have debt to pay, you cannot pay. So therefore we are withdrawing our funds. You say, oh, wait, help me out. What do I do? Say, good. If you want to do that, then these are the structural adjustment facilities you must implement before funds must come. What are the structural adjustments that will come? What is the consequences of it? That's why you talk about privatization, deregulation, and liberalization of your economy. So that now they will have access and control of your economy.
Oh, really?
Because if they do have access and control of your economy, then they dictate the policies.
So we're in the clutches of the IMF.
We are under the wings of IMF, and it is, the policies you are seeing, the selling of assets or the leasing of them, is simply an execution of IMF programs. If you look at what happened in 1985 towards 1994, the structural adjustment program or adjustment facility of the IMF was implemented. That's where you have the laying off of almost more than 3,000 Gambians.
Redundancy of people, yeah.
Do you know why? Because Gambia was in arrears and he could not pay his debt. So therefore IMF will say, you cannot continue this trend. You have to pay the debt. You have to pay your arrears before you are credit worthy. So therefore you must implement this so that you can get more revenue so that you can pay your debt. That's why you see a lot of activities of selling out the Gambia, our own public enterprises, so that they can have the revenue needed to pay their debt and also service their arrears. IMF was not interested in having an economic development for the people. It wasn't. No, it was interested only in ensuring the arrears and the debt were settled.
Interesting.
Arrears and debt were settled. But if that was the case, if you wanted economic development for the country, why, when in 1984, when the donors withdrew, the Gambia government and the IMF signed an agreement. We call it the standby agreement. But after that, they realized that this government will not be able to pay these arrears or the debt, so they withdraw in 1985. If you are here to help me develop, if you are my development partner, why are you withdrawing? You are interested in me paying the debt. It's an entrapment. So what the debt is going to do is going to keep you depending on them forever. And now they're going to make sure all the avenues where government can tap funds from is taken from them. So government will be only depending on tax and debt and grant. And that is not sustainable. That is to sell the future income of the next generation. That's what is happening. That's why NuPaC is saying, wait, something has to be done. Because the debt Jawara took, he couldn't pay. It was transferred to Jammeh's era. He took so much debt, he couldn't pay, transferred to this era. Now he took many, now we are 110 billion, over that is here, transferred to the next generation. So we are worried. So meaning the next generation will be here busy paying debt. And worst part is, busy paying debt. Do you understand? And the worst part is this. After you have all these state-owned enterprises gone, what are we going to left with? To serve as another diversified form of income to ensure we strengthen ourselves, pay the debts, and also do things for ourselves. Privatization is good if most of it is controlled by the indigenous of the country. Because if you allow foreign corporations to dominate your economy, what they do is, what we are going to have is capital flight. We're going to get the profits, which is the wealth. Profit is the real wealth taken out of this country. And build their countries. But where is our profit? Where is our wealth? It's nowhere to be seen because it's gone. Because we are not busy building wealth. They are busy building wealth. And that's why you will see the flow. Because people will always flow towards where income is. So now, if we are in a country where the income is low, what do you tend to do? Go to places where the income is high.
So you're saying that's why this back way problem will be
that's
here?
why it is.
Will be here for a long time.
Very long time. Because there's a gap. You know the gap here is this. Production must be matched with manufacturing. Agriculture must be developed to feed industry. Now let's say.
Are we on course to do that?
No, we are not. Because you must build agriculture. And if you have to build,
Yeah, but they talk about the jar rice field and marrow farms.
Yeah, it's a good initiative, but is it going to be sustainable? Remember this. If you want jar oil, rice, whatever, to flourish in this country, you must protect it. You must protect it, subsidize it so that it will grow enough to compete with this one imported.
So stop the rice coming from India.
Yes.
Help,
jar,
scale up jar and
oil.
whoever else is in rice.
Well, you know what?
production.
They're not going to do that.
They're not going to do that?
IMF will not allow it. Because that's a violation.
Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do de dik. Luta mo nulo jël mo to nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Ano lay waxal?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine. Wave Exina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Because now,
So even if Gambia government wanted to do that, they cannot do that because the IMF would not allow that.
we'll not allow that. Because the point is this. If you say you are going to protect jar oil, what are you going to do? You subsidize jar oil. Right?
Yeah.
Or you put tariff to the ones that are importing rice. So that the price for that good will be high.
Like we did with cement.
Thank you. The price will be high so that jar oil or jar oil's rice production will now be in favor because it will be lower in price than the one that are coming in.
And people say that's what China does.
Yes, and that's what China does. And that's what most of these Asian countries that are flourishing did. They protect their industry to build up so that they can now, when they are enough, when they build, they are strong enough, now you can open the market. Allow others to bring in their rice to compete. So that now jar oil will not be in a monopolist position where it will determine the prices now. Because if jar oil will understand, okay, now I am the king in this market, so therefore I determine the price. So therefore you open up the market to allow investors to bring in rice so that you control jar oil's, monopoly power. So, there are a lot of complex...
So what should we do? Speaking of monopoly, what should we do about NuPaC?
Good. Now, when you come to NuPaC here, if you say you're going to privatize NuPaC and give it to a foreign corporation, the monopoly is still there. So what was supposed to be done is, okay, let's invite another private corporation into this country to compete with NuPaC. So that now NuPaC will know that, I have a competitor, so I must improve my service. But if you take NuPaC holistically and give it to a private, the monopoly is not still ended.
Yeah, true.
Because that foreign corporation is here for profit making. It's not here to serve the people.
Like Secure Report.
Yes.
You know Secure Report?
No.
You don't know Secure Report?
No.
Don't you travel a lot?
No, I have not traveled. I go to Senegal and come back.
Yeah, and when you go to Senegal, you don't use the airport. You don't hear people complain.
I never travel overseas.
Okay.
With an aeroplane. Yes.
You haven't heard people complain about having to pay $1,000 fee as
the Gambia?
resident
Yes,
Gambians.
yes.
To leave your country, you have to pay a levy to some foreign company.
I had that.
To re-enter your country, you have to pay a levy. How do you feel about that? I mean, the day
the point is...
you're here to travel for the first time through the airport,
Sure.
you will encounter that.
Yeah, I had people saying that. But you know what happened? The Gambia government is in debt. And anything they can do to pay and service their
But
debt,
we do not know how this money, because this money is never accounted for in the budget. We are paying money that we have no idea. The majority of Gambians have no idea where it is going.
That is where the Gambians must rise up. Because if your facility is being used to earn money and you don't know where the money is coming from, or you don't know where money is going to.
It's coming from us.
Yes. We don't know where
it's
the money
coming
is
from
going to.
every Gambian.
Yes.
In fact, not just every Gambian. Every human soul that is entering or leaving this country via the airport.
Yes. Yes. You don't know where it is going.
Well, except for those who carry diplomatic passport. The few privileged ones.
Yes. So that means now we have a lot to do to ensure we hold to account these authorities that are... I have three things to say. for any institution to thrive, there are some fundamental pillars that must be there. One, you must have a strategic vision and objective. You must have a structure and a system for the implementation of, for the achievement of that strategic objective and vision. You must
we have that. They will tell you we have the National Development Plan, the NDP. Okay. Everything is,
okay, now you can have the National Development Plan.
Yeah.
But do you have the structure, the system for the implementation of that? So something is missing. If you do have that, the next question is it going to generate the rendering the quality of service and the quantity of service required? If you have it, the next question is, those people implemented, do they have the right attitude, the knowledge required for the implementation of that? You don't have it. So these things must come in place. Because if, for example, today you own this institution, there are things you are not going to compromise. Attitude is important. Because if the attitude of the people working here is not up to the standard to achieve the goals you want, then it will automatically fail.
That's true.
That's why when the minister came here, Minister of Finance, Sidikator, would say, okay, we need results and performance. That is the very essence why we are leasing this out or we are selling them out, because it's not functioning or it's not efficient. But the question is, efficiency does not fall from the sky. Efficiency is built. How do you build efficiencies? That's the question. So if you are to tell me that the government, the institutions under government are not functioning, are not efficient, so therefore what we do is we sell them out or we lease them out. So you are saying that the people who are working in the government cannot operate it. You are even saying the government itself cannot operate the government. That is what you are saying.
Okay. So what are we, because we're running out of time very soon, what are we getting right? Apparently we've been getting a lot of things wrong. What are we getting right? There must be one or two things we are getting right.
As far as we are concerned, there's some missing points. And what we are not...
in other words, we are not getting anything right.
Yes, I'm not seeing anything that we are getting right. Because...
So, what about this line, the youths are happy? Do you agree with the youths being happy?
The youths are happy is more of a propaganda.
Ah.
Yes, because if you look at the one who is talking about youths are happy,
Momodu Sabali.
Let's look at him. When did that start? After he have joined MPP. That's when it starts. So if you look at it, so meaning you are telling us you started to be happy immediately you joined NPP. And now you want to use philosophy, you want to use the Quran, you want to use the Bible to convince people as to what you are saying philosophically. But if you look at the idea of being happy, what is happiness all about? For example, Peter, if you achieve something remarkable, the dopamine enzymes is released into your system. And that does one thing. It breeds euphoric experience. It's more of a mental illusion. Happiness is all about that. So it's simply to tell you, sometimes you can propagate something. Okay, youths are happy.
Yeah.
Why are they happy? That's the question. Why are they happy?
Well, because they have all their problems solved.
There's no problem. This country is full of problems. It's not all solved. Youths are dying in the sea. Youths are unemployed. Do you understand? A hungry man, you call a hungry man happy? In what sense is he happy?
Who says the Gambian youths are hungry?
If they are not hungry. If they are not hungry. Now we look at it, the concept here. Are they employed? That's one. Do they have the required nutrition?
The minister, the information minister, let me be specific, has said that up to 150,000 jobs may have been created in the 7-8 years of Barrow.
You can create 1 million jobs, but we look at the effect of the job. Now, what is what are the incomes of these people?
No, you asked a question whether youths are employed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Employment is one thing, but what is the purpose of employing somebody? What is the purpose of me being employed in?
They are earning an income.
You earn income, but is that income fit for purpose? Well, that's the question to ask. Well, it's not about just employment for employment's sake. It is the employment needs to. Now let me put it like this.
I am happy with $1,000. There are people who don't have enough, even when they have $100,000.
They are not happy with $1,000. Because they understand that $1,000 that it cannot fit to pay their rent.
No, I am telling you that I am happy with $1,000.
Peter, you are happy because probably you have your needs satisfied. Nobody is going to be happy, so as long as your needs is not going to be satisfied. This is idea of somebody is happy without having his needs satisfied is a fallacy.
Unfortunately, I have just 2 more minutes for you. How would you like to use those 2 minutes?
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is like the youth of this country must understand the root causes of their problems and then to do everything they can do to ensure we solve the problems that the country is facing with. So if you are to leave your destiny in the hand of somebody, so what you are doing is you are relegating yourself to the lowest rank of society, and that's what the youth of this country need to factor out. What we should do now is to ensure we seek the required knowledge needed for us to take the destiny of our country in our own hands, and then move to build a country that is needed for the development of this country, for its prosperity and for its dignity, without depending on any other nation or seeking charity or requesting some mercy from other countries so that we can survive. And that is not sustainable. And I think for that to change, youths of this country must do what is needful and must do what is required for them to take the destiny of this country in their own hand. Otherwise, this problem will persist and will forever be here. Another government will come here, a politician will come and tell you, I'll change the system. I say, no, you're not going to change it. So as long as the structures that you find there is not changed, you will still do the same thing as the previous one was doing. That's why when I see the politician talk, I say, wait, get there and see. Get there and see. You don't change the structure, you will do worse than what this current administration have done, and you will do worse than what Janha has done, and do worse than what President Jawara has done. So therefore, the structure must change. Otherwise, whoever comes there, he will be the same.
Okay. Sheriff, thank you very much for your time. Remind us what NuPaC means again.
Nurturing patriotic citizens.
And that's Sheriff Janha. You've been listening to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on Tuesday, the 8th of April.
Janha Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Janha Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello? Ano lay waxal?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave, Bisul mu fine? Wave, your money is yours.